We are chatting today all about how to get featured on podcasts. If you know me, you know that I've been talking about visibility lately, and visibility is one of the key metrics that I use in my formula system, PMVMS, that helps Christian entrepreneurs learn how to hit $20,000 months in their business, okay? So visibility is important. You got to get your brand visible. You got to get yourself visible. People need to know who you are and what it is that you do. And the more eyeballs that go to your website and that go to your sales pages, that go to where you're marketing your business, is the more sales that you're going to start to see in your specific business. But that comes from getting visible, putting yourself out there, and not allowing outside factors to hinder you. Hey, real quick, if you don't know who I am, hi, bestie. My name is Santa Kopishki, and I am a Christian sales coach. Like I said earlier in this video, I help Christian entrepreneurs scale to $20,000 months using my formulated system, PMVMS, which stands for prayer, mindset, visibility, marketing, and sales. Through my formulated system, in my signature program, Consecration Academy, you will learn exactly how to make $20,000 months without fail, using the Holy Spirit and the program as a whole. So, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, bestie, listen. So we're going to chat today about how to get yourself more visible, how to get featured on podcasts. If you know me, I have been featured on a lot of different podcasts. Podcasts are kind of my thing. It is one of the ways that I like to get visible. It is one of the ways that I can grow and have grown my business and have grown my audience pool. So I'm going to teach you step by step. So step number one, the very first thing that you need to do if you are looking to pitch yourself to podcasts is you need to open some kind of spreadsheet, or even just like writing it down on a piece of paper, right? But you need something for you to know exactly who you're targeting. Okay, so I typically I have a spreadsheet. I'm not going to show my spreadsheet, but I am going to list an example template down below for the freezies that you can just go ahead and copy with no issues, okay? So grab my template. In this template, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a column for the name of the podcast. You're going to see a column for the name of the host. You're going to see a column that has a drop down on like, have you pitched them? Have you not pitched them? All those kinds of things. So you know the status of where you are. And then there should be a column also that is called notes. So this way you can have notes on like what you're doing there. Okay. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have something where you can take notes and have like a spreadsheet, right? Step number two, you're going to want to figure out which podcasts are catered directly to your ideal client avatar. So for example, I'm a Christian sales coach. I only want to be on Christian business podcasts, right? Or, any kind of podcast that helps gear towards business. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christian, because Christians are everywhere. But because I only work with Christian entrepreneurs, a Christian podcast, business podcast would be great for me. You need to know who your exact ideal client avatar is, and you need to pitch a podcast that is going to match your ideal client avatar. So go and search for podcasts that are going to help you specifically, and add the name and the host to your spreadsheet. Now, one thing I need you to know before you go and add every podcast is you need to check to see if they've already had guests in the past, or if they have never had guests. And how you do this is you go to their Spotify or their Apple, where you can listen to Apple Podcasts, and you just check in the description of the podcast, like, usually says with so-and-so. So they'll say their name and they'll say with so-and-so or with guest so-and-so. If it doesn't say anybody else's name, typically this is not a podcast that would have guests. And so we're not going to pitch podcasts that have never had guests. But you want to make sure that you are writing down podcasts that your ideal client is listening to. Now you're going to want to go ahead and pitch them. This is kind of tricky because you will have to find their email addresses. A lot of times, though, most podcasters have their own website, and so you can go to their website and you can search exactly how to pitch them, or you can pitch them directly on a platform like Instagram, or Facebook, or even LinkedIn is a really great platform. Go ahead and give their name a Google search and see how you can connect with them. And that is going to be key so you can fill out your spreadsheet. I recommend filling out your spreadsheet with at least 50 to 100 before you do any pitching, just an FYI. Another way that you can find podcasts that you can get featured on is to go into groups. There are lots of Facebook groups like this one dedicated to where guests can find guests. Go into those Facebook groups, post post a little bit about you and share what kinds of podcasts that you're looking to speak on. If you are on Threads, Threads is a wonderful platform that Instagram has. You could post that you're looking to get featured on specific type of podcast, right? That is going to be really beneficial for connecting you directly with someone who may be actually looking to have you on their podcast. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about this. Now, here's the fun part. You need to get to pitching. After you've built up your list, the very next step is to pitch them, okay? How do you do this? Well, you want to listen to at least 1 or 2 episodes so you can know exactly what you're talking about. I always start off with, hey, first name, and then I get into the body of my thing. I say, hey, let's say the person's name is Sarah. Hey, Sarah, I loved your episode on blank about blank with blank. Right? So tell them what you loved about it. Be genuine. Don't be silly. Be genuine. Tell them exactly what you loved about their podcast, exactly what you loved and what you learned from their episode, and tell them the truth. And then kind of say, hey, I'm writing you today, or I'm sending you this email because I would love to be a guest on your podcast here. And I would list 3 different topics that you could talk about on their podcast. You should at least have 3 things that you can talk about with them on their podcast. So I would say, I would love to be a guest on your podcast. I can talk about this, or because either 3. Please let me know if you have any availability, if you would like to meet, if you would like to discuss this further, because I would love to collaborate in this potential, right? And that is going to increase your chances. Now, some people may say no, some people may say yes. What you want to make sure that you're doing is you're following up regardless of the yes or the no, and that you are staying in the loop and keeping up with how many podcasts you are being featured on. This is going to increase your chances of getting featured on more podcasts. When you are done with the podcast, you have pitched yourself, you're on the podcast, there's a lot of other things that you need to do. But for now, today's episode, we're just talking about how to actually get featured on podcasts. In another video that I'll make for this playlist is I'm going to talk about what do you do to marry the podcast tour that you just went on to your marketing so that you can begin to see sales in your business, because that's extremely important. We're not just podcast touring just to say that we did it. We are podcast touring for a reason. So I hope that helps. If this video has inspired you or helped you in any capacity, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and if you're a Christian entrepreneur that is looking to scale to $20,000 months in your business, I want to invite you into Consecration Academy. Consecration Academy is a hybrid one-on-one and group coaching program where me and you are going to work side by side with each other to really grow into $20,000 months, utilizing my formulated system, PMVMS, and the Holy Spirit combined. With this being said, I want to see you in there. Definitely click on the link in the description. Learn more about Consecration Academy. Figure out if it's a good fit for you. Extended payment plans are offered, so if you need one, I have them available. I love you, friends, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye!